Let's just stop pretending and start telling the truth because this entire Napheesa Collier situation has officially spiraled out of control. And it's time to cut through the narratives and focus on the actual basketball and business behind the chaos. Because, first of all, let's talk common sense. You're trying to be a leader in the league, but you won't sit down and have a conversation with the commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, that hash things out like a professional. That right there already disqualifies you from any serious leadership conversation. And it's wild that people are even trying to defend that. And you want to be the face of the WNBA, a founding figure of a whole new league in Unrivaled. But when it comes down to sit at the table and address the concerns directly, not even a public confrontation, just a private meeting, you back out and duck the smoke. But then you turn around and proudly take a photo op meeting with Kamala Harris. Now we all know former Vice President Kamala Harris. She's on her book tour. I don't know what the book called. I forgot what it's called. Um, and you sit down with her before you sit down with the organization that's putting food on the table for you. Seriously? Like, we're supposed to believe this is about business and progress for women's basketball when you won't meet with the league you play in, but you'll smile for the camera with a politician whose track record in sports is non existent, whose presence in this conversation adds absolutely no value at all. That's optics over action. And that's where the credibility starts to crumble. And let's be real, the commissioner ain't perfect. But under her watch, the WNBA is actually seeing real growth. Viewership is up, and we know that's the Caitlin Clark effect. Expansion is happening. Player salaries are increasing, as we know from the media rights deal. Media coverage is at an all-time high because now sponsors and the media rights deal and them going in agreement to basically broadcast the WNBA more on ESPN, which we know ESPN was never rocking with the WNBA or even cared to talk about the WNBA. You got Amazon Prime, you got all these things going on, and you want to start throwing grenades into that just as things are finally trending upward. Make it make sense. But check out Napheesa Collier discussing the matter in a conversation with former Vice President Kamala Harris. Literally.
I am on the union for our CBA negotiations, like our collective bargaining negotiations for our league. And so for so long, I felt like I saw what was going on behind closed doors. For so long, we tried to have these conversations and move the needle in those meetings that we would have with the league, within our leadership. And I saw nothing was changing. Coaches, winning and losing alike, were complaining about the same things over and over again, players over and over again, and we weren't seeing a change that our leadership was trying to make. And I think I just got to the point where I was fed up. And you talked about this with me backstage, and it just resonated so much. It's just like whether I was going to get annihilated for this, or people were going to support me. I felt what I was doing was right. I felt like it needed to be said. So no matter the consequences, I felt like it was something that needed to be done. I am on the
Well, I can tell you right now, and let me know, family, down in the comments below your thoughts. You know that saying where only losers are the ones complaining that Kathy Engelbert said? Well, now I can't even defend Napheesa Collier in regards of saying the uncomfortable truth for player safety and stuff because now you have went and switched this to political theater outside of the integrity of basketball and business, and now you're just playing um, optics here. Not to mention, there's already speculation. And I'm not saying this is true that you're propping up your own league, unrivaled, and trying to bash the WNBA, which gave you the monies and the revenue and idea, piggybacking off of the WNBA, calling yourself helping the players in the off season of the WNBA, and your whole idea basically came about from you being in the WNBA in the first place. Because let's be real, if she wasn't in the WNBA, would she care about making the league unrivaled to actually care about players making sure they play in the United States and stay at home and still being able to sharpen their skills and not have to go overseas to make money? As we know that these women aren't making the salaries as NBA players, um, but the salaries are increasing, and if you're finally starting to see the league look somewhat green in regards to not being negative and being able to be sufficient to be able to fund itself. Because we all know that the league is not profitable on its own. but it's a possibility now that we have Caitlin Clark and things like that, in her visibility and her respect for the game that's making people watch in the first place, like myself. This my honest take. But now you're sitting here, you proving Kathy Engelbert right because now you rocking with a loser because we know former Vice President Harris, all respect to her and her accolades and what she has done, she did lose the election. So you're flocking with a loser instead of actually having a conversation, the uncomfortable truth to actually do the very thing that you say you want to do in regards of what you say you prioritize, which is speaking up and speaking on behalf of the union and behalf of the players. But you talking like the conversation is done and you already have things have became resolved. You're not even sitting down with Kathy Engelbert. So you talking as though you's taking a stand and you already had come to a resolution when you haven't even finished what you started. So now how can it be taken serious? So is this all for games? You know what I'm saying, family? So you're starting to look at it wrong. But here comes Adam Silver stepping in. Um, and not to take sides, but this is what real leadership does. Keeps things focused on the mission. He didn't throw shade. He didn't get emotional. He said flat out, look, this is becoming too personal and it's clouding the issues that actually matter. That's not an attack. That's a grown man telling folks to grow up. And you got a commissioner from the NBA, one of the most powerful figures in sports. And now she can't knock Adam Silver off. She can't play no games with him because he reminding everyone that business comes before ego. And he's right. This ain't about feelings. It's about contracts, revenue, and long-term league stability. First rule of business. It's not personal. It's just business. You can't operate in the best interest of those if you are in your feelings because once feelings get involved and emotions, logic go out the window. But the problem is some players, Collier included, wanted to play both sides. You can't run your own league and compete with the WNBA, then turn around and try to influence collective bargaining negotiations, which is the whole thing in regards of basically negotiating to give y'all more pay and y'all paychecks inside the WNBA Players Association Union, which she's a part of, Napheesa Collier. Like there's no conflict of interest there. That's not how any of this works. You think NBA owners and investors are going to sit back and let WNBA players split their time, energy, and loyalty between two competing leagues, one of which you own? That's not just a gray area. That's a flashing red conflict. And yeah, they may not be panicking about Unrivaled now because it hasn't cut deep into the business yet. But as soon as players start getting paid real money over there, 4 times their WNBA salaries, what do you think is going to happen? That's not empowerment. That's competition. That's cannibalization of your own league. And what Silver is really signaling is, without saying it directly, is that owners aren't going to play along forever. They're not about to play with you. If the money starts flowing into Unrivaled in a serious way, don't be shocked when the WNBA comes down hard and says, pick a league. Because no business is going to allow its athletes to get paid elsewhere, risk injury elsewhere, build another brand elsewhere, and still want full status and influence in the original league. You think NBA players could co-own a new basketball league during collective bargaining negotiations and not get heat for it? Come on now, let's not play dumb. Let's not play ignorant. That's why this whole situation is feeling like a setup for a lockout. It's not just about money, it's about control. It's starting to look like. That's why I can't back her on this now. It's not professional what Napheesa Collier is doing. The collective bargaining agreement is up for negotiation for their salaries to increase. And instead of unity and professionalism, you got division and dysfunction. Collier might have been had good intentions at first, and I'll give her that, being objective, trying to prove things, trying to bring more attention when it comes to more money, more opportunity, player safety. But that execution has been trash. You leaked private convos with Kathy Engelbert. Let's not forget that was about Caitlin Clark, the hottest ticket in basketball right now. And then you trying to run into the victim Olympics when fans and media start asking real questions. But the fans aren't dumb. They see through this. That's why support for Collier, Napheesa Collier, has been dropping. When this first started, she had people behind her. People wanted to believe she was trying to make the league better. But now it's looking like ego, control, and chasing popularity. Now, before I close, let's check out what Adam Silver had to say. He said, I think it's unfortunate, particularly at this moment when, as the league, we love all the attention to be on these incredible finals. We saw two fantastic games, and the quality of play on the floor has never been greater. We do need to sit down and negotiate a new collective bargaining agreement with these players. The WNBA is experiencing some growth pains. At the same time, Kathy Ingeborg has presided over 6 years of some of the strongest growth we not only seen in the WNBA but in any sports league in history. But it's become too personal, and we're gonna have to work through those issues. And of course, I'll be available to help in any way I can. I'm not planning to step in at the moment, but I have strong relationships with many of the constituent groups in the WNBA. And they know the main issue here is getting a new collective bargaining agreement done. And then focusing on collectively how we can continue to grow the WNBA alongside the same trajectory we've seen over the last 6 years. Right? So, and not to mention, Brianna Stewart is tied up in this too because she's part of creating that other league, which is Unrivaled with Napheesa Collier, because she's another figure who's supposed to be helping lead collective bargaining talks, but is knee deep in a side league that directly benefits her personally. I don't see the problem with that. That's not progress, that's self interest dressed up in empowerment language. And look, I'm all for players getting paid what they worth. I'm all for women's sports rising and finally getting the attention and the money they deserve. But how are you going to fight for that while you're throwing your own league into chaos? If your goal is to make the WNBA better, don't create a competing product and then act surprised when people question your motives. Build from within, not across the street. What people like Adam Silver understand, and what a lot of fans do too, is that the league grows through structure, not chaos. And we all know when it comes to chaos and dysfunction, there's some money involved and there's some greed. And through chaos, people tend to profit. Nowadays, people get in trouble or convicted in the court of public opinion and how people are looking at things, which can either make their business or break their business. And I promise you, the owners are already preparing for that moment, right? If Unrivaled starts cutting into WNBA rosters, ratings, and revenue, that's not empowerment, that's fracture. They're going to write it into contracts, no playing in other leagues during the WNBA season. Because if this is about the WNBA, keep it on that, but don't start playing player optics and getting people involved that have nothing to do with basketball like Kamala Harris. What are we talking about here? Playing games. But let me know you guys' thoughts down in the comments below. I hope you guys got some value from this. Give this video a big thumbs up. Catch you in the next one. Peace.